I still remember that moment very clearly. Not when I walked onto the stage. Not when 3,000 people stood up and applauded. But the moment my father looked at me, and for the first time in his life he did not recognize his own daughter. That morning the sky was so blue it felt almost perfect. The school stadium was packed. Flowers, balloons, laughter, all blending into a sound that should have made me feel happy. But it did not. I sat in the row reserved for top students, hands resting on my lap, my palms cold. My heart was not racing from excitement. It was beating like it was waiting for something to end. I looked down at the parents section. Front row, center. My parents were sitting there. Well-dressed, formal, proud. But not because of me. They were there to watch my twin sister graduate. No one there knew that I was there too. If you have ever felt like your family could go on just fine, even if you did not exist, comment 1. My father was adjusting his camera lens. My mother was holding a large bouquet. Between them there was an empty seat. No one sat in it. No one saved it for me. Never. I looked at them one more time. There was no more pain, no more anger, just a strange emptiness, as if I had already left this family a long time ago. But this story did not start here. It started 4 years ago. In our living room, my father sat down in his usual chair, the one he always used when he was about to make an important decision. My mother sat beside him, hands clasped together, and my sister stood near the window. The sunlight hit her just right, making her look like the perfect version of everything I would never become. I sat across from them, still holding my acceptance letter. "We need to talk about tuition," my father said, his voice calm, too calm. "Emily," he turned to my sister, "your mother and I will cover all your expenses. Whitestone University, tuition, housing, everything." My sister nearly burst into tears of joy. My mother smiled. The room seemed to brighten. Then he turned to me. "As for you," a very short pause, but enough for me to feel something was wrong. "We will not be funding your education." I did not understand right away. Not because I did not hear him, but because my mind refused to accept it. "I am sorry, what did you say?" He let out a small breath, as if explaining something obvious. "Emily has potential. She is good with people, has connections, knows how to build a future. That is a reasonable investment." Then he looked straight into my eyes. "But you, Claire." What he said next stayed with me for the next 4 years. "You are smart, but you are not special." He paused. "There is no return on investing in you." The room fell silent. No one objected. No one said he was wrong. I looked at my mother. She avoided my gaze. I looked at my sister. She was texting, probably sharing her good news with someone. And me, I just sat there with the letter in my hands, and for the first time in my life I understood exactly where I stood in this family. Not a daughter, but a failed investment. I thought that was where it would end. I was wrong. Because that very moment was when my life began to change. And 4 years later they would sit beneath that stage, look up at me, and finally realize just how wrong they had been about me. I used to think what my father said that night was an exception, a bad moment, a wrong decision. But then I realized it was not the beginning, it was the result. Because the truth is, I was never chosen, not once. Not in any moment when a child needed to be at the center. Emily and I were born exactly 6 minutes apart, same day, same house, same family. But somehow we grew up in 2 completely different worlds. On our 16th birthday, Emily got a new car. A white sedan with a red ribbon, parked right in front of the house. My father handed her the keys himself. My mother took pictures. Everyone smiled. And me, I got Emily's old laptop. Cracked screen. Dead battery. It only worked if it stayed plugged in. "I am sorry," my mother said softly. In that familiar tone, "We cannot afford 2 cars. I nodded. I always nodded. But the strange thing was, we had money for other things, for Emily's winter ski trip, for the designer prom dress she wore once, for her summer study program in Spain. And every time I learned something new, it was not that we did not have money, it was that I was not worth spending it on. If you have ever felt like you are, Always the one who has to understand, the one who has to give in, the one who has to be reasonable. Comment. I understand family vacations were what I hated most. Not because I did not like traveling, but because that was when everything became the clearest. Emily always had her own room. And me, I slept on the sofa, sometimes on a folding bed in the hallway, sometimes in a tiny space the resort called a cozy nook. It felt more like a closet. But everyone still smiled, still took pictures, still posted them online. Perfect family. I stood at the edge of those photos, sometimes half cut out, sometimes not there at all. I tried asking once when I was 17, "Mom, why is Emily always in the center?" My mother sighed that familiar sigh. "You are imagining things, Claire. We love you both the same." I nodded like always. But there was something I learned very early. Words are easy, actions are not. A few months before that family meeting, I saw something I was probably not meant to see. My mother's phone was left on the kitchen table. The screen still on. A message not closed. I did not mean to read it, I really did not. But my eyes still caught it. "Claire is pitiful, but Harold is right. She is not outstanding. We have to be realistic." I do not know how long I stood there. I do not know how my heart was beating. I only remember everything around me became silent. No sound from the fridge, no cars outside, nothing. Just one thought, clear and sharp. They. I had decided who I was a long time ago. I was not who they hoped for. Not someone they were proud of. Not someone they wanted to invest in. I was the backup plan. That night I said nothing. I did not ask. I did not cry. I went to my room, closed the door, sat on the floor. The old laptop was in front of me. The screen flickering, battery weak. I opened it, not to play, not to distract myself, but to search. Full scholarship opportunities, the words appeared slowly. Weak internet, the machine lagging. But I was not in a hurry, because for the Claude the box recording, first time in my life, I was not looking for their approval anymore. I was looking for a path without them. That night I stayed up until 2 in the morning, writing, calculating tuition, living costs, jobs, time, everything, and I realized something simple. If I did nothing, I would become exactly what my father said, a failed investment. But if I did this, if I built my own path, then whether they saw it or not, I would still know I was not who they thought I was. I thought trying hard would be enough. I was wrong. Because what was waiting for me ahead was not just effort. It was a 4-year battle where every single day would make me want to quit. But I did not quit. And what I did not know back then was somewhere in the very school I was about to enter, there was someone who would truly see me in a way my family never did. I thought I was ready for it. After everything I had seen, after the message on my mother's phone, after years of standing on the outside, I thought I already knew the outcome. But I was wrong. Nothing could prepare me for the feeling when it actually happened. That night after the family meeting, I did not go to bed right away. I sat alone in my room. Lights off. Only the faint blue glow from the old laptop. I opened the spreadsheet again. The numbers I had written before. Tuition 2,50000 a year. 4 years 1,000,000. My savings 2,300. The gap almost impossible. I stared at that number for a long time. So long it stopped feeling like a number. It became a sentence. If I did nothing, I would never start. If I started, I would carry debt for the rest of my life. If I stopped, I would become exactly what they believed. Someone not worth investing in. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Because the next day, things went even further than I expected. Morning. Kitchen. My mother making coffee. My father reading the newspaper. Emily coming downstairs still in her pajamas. Everything felt normal in a way that was almost unbearable. No one mentioned last night. No one asked what I was going to do. No one cared. I stood there for a moment. Then I asked Dad. He did not look up. "If I can cover part of it myself, would you help with the rest?" A small question. Soft, but the answer. It was heavier than I expected. My father folded the newspaper. Looked at me. That look was not a father considering. It was someone who had already decided. Claire, we have already talked about this, but I can. No one word. Short. Final. We are not going to put money into something that has no return, not you. Something. I stood still. My mother said quietly. You could study part-time, Emily added casually, or take a gap year. A lot of people do that. I looked at them. 3 people. My family. But none of them were on my side. If you have ever said something serious and others treated it like it did not matter, comment 1. I nodded. No argument, no persuasion. Not because I agreed, but because I understood something clearly. I had been removed from their plans. Not yesterday, a long time ago. That day I went outside, walked with no direction. I passed familiar streets, the coffee shop, the grocery store, the park where I used to play as a child. Everything was still there, only one thing had changed. The way I saw the world, I was no longer part of a family. I was someone preparing to leave. That night I went back to my room, opened the laptop, this time not to search but to act. Started applying for jobs. Coffee shop near campus, dorm cleaning, teaching assistant, anything that could bring money. I made a schedule, 5 in the morning work, 9 study evening work, night study 4 hours of sleep, repeat 4 years. I looked at that plan. It was not pretty, not easy, not something people would dream about, but it was mine. For the first time in my life I had a path that did not depend on them. Before going to bed I looked at myself in the mirror, an 18-year-old girl, tired, anxious. Not sure if she could do it, but there was something in my eyes that had never been there before. Decision. I will do it myself, I said quietly. No one heard it, but it did not matter anymore, I thought. Having a plan was enough. I was wrong. Because when school started, I realized a plan on paper and reality are 2 completely different worlds. And there were days I stood right on the edge between continuing and giving up. But the most surprising thing was not the exhaustion. It was the loneliness. A kind of loneliness. No one teaches you how to survive. And that was what almost broke me. I arrived at Easton State early in the morning. No one came to see me off. No goodbye hug. No reminders to take care of myself. Just an old suitcase. And a plan I was not even sure I could survive. The dorms were too expensive, so I did not stay there. I rented a small room in an old house about 20 minutes walking distance from campus. 4 people shared the place. No air conditioning, no privacy. My room was just big enough for a single bed and a small desk. If I stretched my arms out, I could almost touch both walls. But I did not complain. Because I knew this was the price of freedom. If you have ever had to choose between comfort and freedom, comment 1. On my first day of work, I started at 5 in the morning. A small coffee shop on campus. The smell of roasted coffee. The sound of the grinder. Soft yellow lights. I stood behind the counter wearing an apron, learning how to smile. Good morning, how can I help you? Simple sentences repeated over and over. Some people did not even look at me. Some got annoyed just because their coffee was slightly cold. But I kept smiling. Because every hour I worked was a small piece of survival. 9 in the morning I rushed to class. No breakfast. No break. Just a free cup of coffee, and a mind constantly running on no sleep. In the evening I worked again. Cleaning dorms. Mopping floors, taking out trash, scrubbing bathrooms. The kind of work no one wants. But for me it was the only way forward. Night. Library. I sat in my usual corner, opened my books, tried to focus. But there were moments when the words in front of me blurred. Not because I did not understand, but because I was too tired. One time I fell asleep right at the desk. When I woke up, it was 2 in the morning. I looked around, almost no one was left. Just a few people like me, trying in their own way. I thought I would get used to this rhythm. I was wrong. Week 3. I collapsed. Right in the middle of my shift. No warning, no sign. Just one moment standing there. And then everything went dark. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor behind the counter. A coworker was calling my name. "Claire, are you okay?" I nodded. Just a little tired. They told me to go home and rest. I went back to work the next day. Not because I had recovered, but because I had no other choice. If you have ever kept going, even when you knew you were exhausted, comment, "I understand." There were days I sat in my room staring at the wall. Doing nothing, thinking nothing. Just existing. Not because I was lazy, but because I had no energy left. But then I stood up again. Not because I was strong, but because if I did not stand up, no one would do it for me. At the end of the first month, I got my paycheck. $1,482. I stared at that number for a long time. Not because it was big, but because it was the first money in my life I earned that no one could take away. I paid rent, bought books, saved a little. Not extra, not comfortable, but enough. Enough to know I was moving in the right direction. But the hardest part was not money, not work. It was moments like Thanksgiving. The day everyone goes home. And I stayed. Alone. I called home. Laughter on the other side, the sound of dishes, a family meal. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom." "Oh yes, happy Thanksgiving." Her voice distant. "Where is Dad?" A pause. Then I heard his voice in the background. "Tell her I am busy." I said nothing. "It is okay, Mom." I hung up. Opened social media. The first photo appeared. My family sitting around the table, candlelight smiles. Caption. Grateful for my wonderful family. I zoomed in. 3 seats, 3 plates. No place for me. Never was. I thought that would hurt. But it did not. Not anymore. Only a strange emptiness. And somehow that emptiness helped me see everything more clearly than ever. I stopped trying to be seen by them. I only needed to see myself. But I did not know. Somewhere in a classroom in this very school, there was someone who had started noticing me. And this time, everything was about to change. I thought my biggest challenge would be money, or work, or trying to study while being completely exhausted every day. I was wrong, because there is something no one tells you before you step into a journey like this. Loneliness, not the kind of being alone, but the kind where you could disappear from this world and no one would notice. The first few weeks passed faster than I expected. Everything became a loop. Wake up, work, study, sleep. No friends, no gatherings. No nights filled with laughter, only a schedule and responsibility. I started to notice something strange. I knew the names of regular customers at the coffee shop, but I did not know the name of a single person in my class. I knew who ordered sugar-free lattes, who was always in a hurry, who got irritated easily. But no one knew who I was, no one asked, no one cared. If you have ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely invisible, comment 1. One evening, I was sitting in the library. Everything around me was the same. Pages turning, keyboards clicking, cold white lights. I opened my book, but I did not read. I just sat there staring into the empty space in front of me, and for the first time a thought appeared. What if I stopped, not stopping school, but stopping everything? No one here really needed me. No one was waiting for me. No one would call if I disappeared. That thought did not come like a storm. It came quietly, gently. Like a suggestion, I sat there for a long time. No tears, no panic, just tired. Very tired. I thought I was strong, but there are battles no one can see. And because no one sees them, they become even more dangerous. I thought that was where I would end. I was wrong. Because what pulled me out of that moment was not strength, it was something very small. A message from someone I did not expect. "Are you okay?" The name Rebecca. A girl from my economics class. We had barely spoken. Not more than 2 sentences. Not more than 2 times I looked at the screen. A simple question, but somehow it felt like someone had just turned on a light in a dark room. I replied, "I am okay." A familiar answer, an untrue answer. The next message came immediately. "That does not sound okay." I did not know what to say, so I did not reply. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then my phone vibrated. Rebecca was calling. I looked at the screen. I could ignore it. No one was forcing me, but I picked up. "Where are you?" Her voice was quick, slightly worried. "Library, I am coming." "You do not have to, Claire." She said my name. Not casually, but like she actually needed to make sure I was okay. "Wait for me." The call ended 15 minutes later. Rebecca, we showed up. She did not ask too many questions. Did not make it a big deal. She just sat down next to me. "Have you eaten?" I shook my head. She handed me a paper bag, a sandwich and a bottle of water. "Eat?" I looked at her. "Why?" A question I probably should not have asked, but I did. She shrugged. "You did not look okay today." That was it. No big reason, no deep story. She simply noticed. I took the sandwich, took a bite. Not because I was hungry, but because I needed to feel like I was still here. If you have ever been helped by a stranger at the exact moment you needed it. Most comment I have, we did not talk much that night. We did not need to. For the first time in a long time, I did not feel alone. Rebecca did not save me, but she kept me from falling further, and sometimes that is enough. In the days after that, we started talking more. Not instantly close, but slowly. She asked about my job, my schedule, how many hours I slept each night. When I said 4, she looked at me like I had said something insane. "You are going to collapse. I do not have a choice." She did not argue. She just said, "Then at least do not do it alone." That sentence stayed in my mind longer than I expected. Because for the first time I started to think, maybe I do not have to do everything alone, but I still did not know the biggest change was not going to come from Rebecca. It would come from someone else, someone who would look at me and see something my own family never did. And when that happened, everything would truly begin to change. I still remember that class very clearly, not because of the lecture, but because it was the first time in my life someone looked at me and did not see a failed investment. Microeconomics class. A large lecture hall. Cold white lights. Rows of seats rising upward like a stadium. I always sat in the 3rd row. Not too close to be noticed. Not too far to miss anything. A safe position. Professor Eleanor Hayes walked in. She was well known on campus. 30 years of teaching. Dozens of research publications. And one thing everyone knew, she almost never gave an A. I opened my laptop and started taking notes, not to impress anyone, but because I did not have the right to fail. The first essay, the topic was not easy. I wrote it at 1 in the morning after my evening shift, when I had almost no energy left. But I still wrote it not to be praised, but because I would not allow myself to do it halfway. A week later, the papers were returned. I held mine. Not expecting anything, not hoping for anything. As long as it was not too bad, that would be enough. I looked at the top corner, A+. I thought I was seeing it wrong. I looked again, still A+. Below it a handwritten note, "Come see me after class." My heart sank, not because I was happy, but because I was. Used to this, whenever something good happened, it usually came with a problem. After class, I walked up to her desk. Professor Hayes was packing her materials, her reading glasses resting low on her nose. Claire Bennett. Yes, sit down, I sat. A few seconds of silence, then she looked straight at me. Is this essay yours? A simple question, but it made me uncomfortable. Yes, did you write it alone? Yes. She nodded slowly. This is one of the best essays I have read in years. I did not know how to react. There was no sense of pride, only disbelief, as if she was talking about someone else. Where did you study before a regular public school? Does anyone in your family work in academia? I hesitated. No, she looked at me longer. Then why are you here in this condition? What condition? Working 3 jobs, sleeping 4 hours, and still producing work like this? I stayed silent. Not because I did not want to answer, but because I was not used to someone actually wanting to understand. My family does not support me. One sentence short enough. She did not ask more right away. She just nodded. So you are doing all of this on your own? Yes, silence, but this time it was not heavy. It felt like she was thinking. Then she put her pen down. Have you ever heard of the Whitfield Scholarship? My heart paused. I knew that name, a scholarship that felt almost impossible. Full tuition. Living support, only a few dozen students selected nationwide. Each year, do you know what they look for? I shook my head. Not grades. She looked directly at me. They look for people who can go beyond their circumstances. I smiled slightly. I do not think I am that kind of person. She did not smile. You are wrong. 2 words. But this time they did not hurt, they made me stop. Claire, you have something many people do not have. What endurance and discipline. She leaned forward. But more importantly, you have something your family has never seen. I looked at her, said nothing, just waited. Potential? I did not respond immediately. Not because I did not hear, but because I did not know if I could believe it. You do not have to decide now. She handed me a paper, information about the scholarship, but if you want to try, I will help you. I took the paper, light, but it felt heavier than anything I had ever held. If you have ever had someone believe in you before you believed in yourself. Comment 1. I left that classroom no different on the outside. Still me, still the same work, still the same life. But something had changed, a possibility. A door that I had never thought was meant for me. That night I sat in my room, opened the old laptop, went to the scholarship website, read every line, requirements, essays, interviews, the competition rate almost impossible. I smiled, a very small smile, not because it was easy, but because for the first time I wanted to try. Not to prove anything to them, but to answer a question I had avoided for years. If no one is judging me, who am I, really? I thought this was just an opportunity. I was wrong, because the decision to apply would pull me into a battle even harder than everything I had been through. And this time I would have to face not only the world but myself. I thought I had gotten used to pressure. 3 jobs, 4 hours of sleep. A routine so repetitive that my body moved like a machine. I thought nothing could make things harder than this. I was wrong. Because the moment I decided to apply for Whitfield, my life stopped being about effort and became a battle. No gunshots, no visible opponent, but every single day felt like a fight. The first essay, write about an adversity that shaped who you are. I stared at that question for a long time, not because I had nothing to say, but because I had too much. The problem was not what to write, it was how I could not just tell a story. I had to make them understand what it feels like to grow up in a family but always stand on the outside. What it feels like to build your own value from nothing. I wrote, deleted, rewrote, deleted again. Every sentence felt like digging up memories I had tried to bury. There were nights I sat in front of the screen, unable to write a single line. Not because I did not know what to say, but because I did not want to feel those things again. But I had to write because this time I was not just trying to survive, I was trying to step out of my old life. If you have ever had to face Memories you wanted to forget. Just to move forward. Comment, I understand. 3 months. That was how long I spent on the application. 10 essays, 3 interview rounds, dozens of emails, hundreds of revisions, and thousands of times I asked myself, am I wasting my time? Because the truth was the acceptance rate was almost nothing. The people applying were not like me. They had backgrounds, connections, preparation, and me, I had an old laptop, an exhausted body, and a belief I was not even sure was enough. There was one night I sat in a car. Not my car, Rebecca's. She let me borrow it for a job interview. I turned off the engine, did not turn on the lights, just sat there and cried. Not quietly, but like everything had been building up for years. No one was there, no one saw. And that was exactly why I let myself cry. 15 minutes, then I wiped my tears, looked at myself in the rearview mirror, a tired face, red eyes. But still, something I am not done yet, I whispered. Not to be strong, but to remind myself I was still in this. I thought submitting the application would be the hardest part. I was wrong, because the hardest part was waiting. The day I clicked submit, there were no fireworks, no sense of victory, just emptiness, as if I had placed my entire future into someone else's hands, and now I could do nothing. Waiting was the most painful part. Every time my phone I vibrated, I flinched. Every new email made my heart race. Then, disappointment. Not this one. Not this one. Still not. Life kept going. Work, classes, library. But something had changed. I was no longer just living to survive. I was waiting for something that could change everything. One morning, 6:47, my phone vibrated. New email, sender Whitfield Foundation. I stood on the sidewalk, did not open it immediately, not because I did not want to know, but because I was afraid. Afraid that everything I had done was still not enough. I thought I was used to failure. But in that moment, I realized I still had hope. And that was the most frightening thing of all. I took a deep breath, opened the email, and what I read changed the entire direction of my life. I stood on the sidewalk that day, completely still. People passed by, cars moved, noise filled the air, but everything felt distant. There was only me and the phone in my hand. The email was still open. Congratulations. You have been selected as one of the final 50 candidates for the Whitfield Scholarship. Out of hundreds, I read it again. Once, twice, 3 times. Not because I did not understand, but because I did not believe it. If you have ever achieved something so big that it did not feel like it belonged to you. Comment. 1. I sat down on the curb. Did not cry. Did not smile. Just breathed. Slowly. 3 years. 3 years of waking up at 4 in the morning. 3 years of working until exhaustion. 3 years. Height of telling myself, just keep going. And now for the first time, there was a sign that all of it might lead somewhere. But at the same time, another feeling appeared. Fear. Not fear of failure, but fear that I was not enough, because the next round was no longer essays, it was a live interview. New York, a place nearly 800 miles away, a place people like me do not usually go. I checked my bank account, $847, flight, hotel expenses, all of it far beyond that number. I thought this was my opportunity. I was wrong. Because opportunity does not always mean you can reach it. I closed my laptop. Did not reply to the email, did not tell anyone, just sat there with one simple thought, I cannot go. That was it. I had come this far. But maybe this was where I would stop, not because I was not good enough, but because I did not have enough money, a truth I had known for a long time. But this time it hurt more. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because there was someone who would not let that happen. Claire, are you crazy? Rebecca stood at my door. I handed her my phone. She read, then shouted, they chose you. Not yet, just the final round. That does not matter. You have to go. I do not have the money. She looked at me, not with pity, but like she could not understand why I would even think that way. Bus? What bus ticket? $50 overnight ride. Arrive in the morning. I stayed silent. and the hotel I will lend it to. You, Rebecca? I cannot. You are not asking, I am giving. She stepped closer. Claire, listen to me. This is the kind of opportunity you do not get twice. I know you do not like depending on anyone, but this is not dependence. This is an investment. I smiled slightly, a word I never thought I would hear again like this. An investment in you, she said it, without hesitation, without doubt. If you have ever had someone believe in you in a way your family never did comment, I have. That night I booked the ticket, bus 8 hours I packed my things. An old coat, a formal outfit I bought from a second-hand store. Not perfect, but enough. The next day I got on the bus, no one saw me off, no one knew. Just me. And an opportunity I was not even sure I deserved. New York, 5 in the morning I stepped off the bus. My neck stiff, my back aching. The city was still dark but awake. People moving, lights, noise. I stood there for a moment, looking around a completely different world. And for the first time I felt small. The waiting room, the other candidates, perfect clean clothes, polished shoes. Some came with their parents, some had mentors. And me alone, an old blazer, slightly worn shoes. I looked down at my hands, they were shaking. One thought appeared, I do not belong here. But then another voice followed immediately. You do not need to belong, you just need to prove you deserve to be here. I lifted my head, took a deep breath, and walked in. I thought this would be the hardest challenge. I was wrong, because what was waiting after this would not just change my future. It would take me back to where everything began. And this time, I would not be the girl sitting silently in the living room anymore. 2 weeks after the interview, I received the email, not in the evening, not when I was free, but in the middle of the street. I was walking to my morning shift, coffee in my hand, my head still heavy from lack of sleep. My phone vibrated. Sender. Whitfield Foundation. This time I did not wait. I opened it. Immediately. We are pleased to inform. I stopped reading. Not because I did not want to know, but because my heart was beating too fast. I took a breath. Read it again from the beginning. You have been selected as a Whitfield Scholar. I stood still. In the middle of the sidewalk, people walked past, cars moved by, but I was not there anymore. 3 years unseen, 3 years unrecognized, 3 years with only myself, and now someone had finally seen me. I smiled. Then I cried, not quietly, but like everything had built up and finally broke. If you have ever achieved something that cost you everything, comment I understand. That night Professor Hayes called me. Claire, I just received the notice. I do not even know what to say. Then do not say anything, she said softly. Just remember you deserve this. I stayed silent. There is one more thing. I looked up. This scholarship allows you to transfer to a partner university for your final year. A pause. Whitestone University is on that list. My heart stopped for a second. Whitestone, Emily's school, the place my family invested everything in, the place I was excluded from the very beginning. If you transfer, Professor Hayes continued, you will graduate with the highest honors, valedictorian, and you will be the one giving the graduation speech. I did not respond immediately, not because I did not understand, but because I understood. Too well. My family would be there. They would sit in the audience. They would be waiting for Emily, and then they would look up and see me. I thought I would feel satisfaction. I was wrong. The first feeling was not revenge. It was a strange calm. I am not doing this for them, I said. I know I am doing this for myself. I know that too. I looked into the distance. Whitestone, a place that used to be a dream I was not allowed to have. Now it was my choice. I will transfer, I said. No hesitation. No need for time, because this time I did not need anyone's permission. 3 weeks later I arrived at Whitestone. No announcement, no call home, no message to Emily. I walked into the campus like a complete stranger. No one knew who I was. And that felt light. 3 weeks passed. Everything was normal. Until one day, Claire, I looked up. Emily was standing there less than 2 meters away. Her coffee tilted slightly, like she had stopped suddenly. What are you doing here? I closed my book. Hi, Emily. No, I mean, are you studying here? Yes. Since when? A while now. Do Mom and Dad know? I looked straight at her. No, she stood still, as if trying to piece everything together. But the tuition, how did you? Scholarship. One word, enough. She did not speak right away, just looked at me, not the look of someone above me anymore, but someone starting to realize something had changed. Why did you not tell anyone? I tilted my head slightly. Did you ever ask? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Silence. If you have ever realized some relationships exist only because you kept holding on. Comment 1. I stood up. I have class. Claire, wait. She touched my arm lightly. Do you hate us? I looked down at her hand, then back at her. No. An answer that surprised even me. You cannot hate people you have stopped caring about. I gently pulled my arm away and walked off. That night, my phone kept lighting up. Missed calls, messages, Mom, Dad, Emily. For the first time in years, they were looking for me. But I did not answer. Not because I was angry, but because this time everything would happen on my terms. I thought that meeting was the climax. I was wrong. Because the moment that would change everything had not happened yet. It would come on graduation day, when 3,000 people sat in the audience, and I walked onto the stage. The night before graduation, I did not sleep. Not because I was nervous, but because for the first time in my life I knew exactly what I was about to do. Not to prove anything, not for revenge, but to tell the truth. That morning the sky was almost perfectly clear. Whitestone had never been this full. 3,000 seats, almost all taken families, friends, flowers, cameras. Everything was there to witness a beautiful ending. I walked in through the entrance for top students, black gown, golden sash over my shoulder, the Whitfield badge on my chest catching the morning light. I sat down, did not look around immediately, did not look for them right away. I wanted to keep this moment still, but eventually I looked, front row center. My father, my mother, Emily, all of them were there. My father, adjusting his camera, my mother holding a large bouquet. Between them the same empty seat. Not for me, never was, if you have ever stood right in front of someone and they still did not see you. Comment. I understand. The ceremony began. Speeches, applause. Time moved slowly as if stretching the moment before everything changed. I sat there, hands on my lap, breathing evenly, no shaking, not because I was not afraid, but because I had been through too much to fear this. For a moment. The principal stepped up. His voice echoed through the speakers. And now I would like to introduce. My heart started beating faster. This year's valedictorian. A pause. Whitfield scholar. I stood up. Claire Bennett. For a moment everything stopped. Then 3,000 people turned, looking at me. I walked forward, step by step, the sound of my shoes clear against the floor, the sash moving slightly with each step. I did not look down, did not look to the sides, only straight, ahead. But when I passed the front row I looked at them. My father, his hand frozen mid-air, the camera no longer pointed correctly. My mother, the bouquet slipping slightly from her hands. Emily, her mouth open, but no words coming out. That was not pride, not joy, it was shock, the kind of shock when truth breaks. Everything you believed. I stepped onto the stage, stood in front of the microphone. 3,000 people below. But there were 3 people I knew were truly looking at me. For the first time I adjusted the microphone, took a breath and began. Good morning, my voice carried steady, not shaking 4 years ago. I paused. Someone told me that I was not worth investing in. The front row. My mother raised her hand to her mouth. My father did not move. I continued. That I was not special, that there was no return in believing in me. No one spoke, not a single sound. 3,000 people silent. I did not look at them anymore. Only forward. I believed that. For a long time, not because it was true, but because no one said otherwise. I paused, just enough for the words to sink in, so I learned to tell myself something different, not that I was not enough, but that I had to become enough. I spoke about the mornings at 4, the long shifts, the sleepless nights, the rushed meals, not for sympathy, but to show the cost. But the most important thing, I looked out at the audience, was not how hard I worked, it was what I learned. Another pause I learned. Your value does not come from someone else seeing it, not from money, not from status. It comes from whether you are willing to believe in it. The front row. My mother was crying, not softly, something deeper. My father still sat still, but his eyes never left me. I am not standing here today because someone believed in me. I am standing here because I learned to believe in myself. Another pause. I do not need recognition. I do not need agreement. I do not need anyone to invest, because the only thing I need is not to give up on myself. I finished. No shouting, no emphasis. Just one final sentence. If you have ever been told you are not enough, I looked straight ahead. They were wrong. 1 second, 2 seconds, then the entire stadium stood. Applause, loud, continuous, unstoppable. I stepped back, walked away from the microphone. But before I turned, I looked at them. One last time. And this time I did not see distance. I saw regret, but it no longer mattered, because for the first time in my life, I was not standing there for them to see me. I was standing there for myself. I thought that was the ending. I was wrong, because what happened next would decide whether I would keep them or let them go. The ceremony ended, music returned, laughter, voices calling out names. People hugged, took photos, celebrated, as if everything was complete. And me, I stood still for a moment, not in a hurry to leave, not looking for anyone, just feeling something I had never felt before. Light, not the kind of light that comes from winning, but the kind when something that has been weighing on you for years finally disappears. Claire, I turned around. My father, he stood there. No longer carrying his usual certainty, just a man who did not know what to say. My mother stood beside him, eyes red, the bouquet in her hands crumpled from how tightly she held it. Emily behind them, silent. Why did you not tell us? My father asked. His voice strained. I looked at him. No anger, no blame. Just calm. Did you ever ask? He said nothing. A long silence. My mother stepped forward. I am sorry. A sentence I had waited for a very long time, but when it finally came, it no longer meant what it used to. If you have ever waited for an apology until it no longer mattered, comment, I understand. I know, I said, not to forgive, but to end it. Can we talk? My mother asked. As a family, I looked at her, then at my father, then at Emily. 3 people, my family, but no longer the center of my world. We are talking, I said. I mean, come home. I shook my head. No, no hesitation, no softness, just clear. Why? My father asked. There was something close to desperation in his voice. Are you cutting us off? I took a breath. No, I am setting boundaries. 2 words. But this time they came from me. I am no longer someone who needs to be recognized. I do not need to prove anything. And I do not need to go back to a place I never belonged. My mother started crying. Emily stepped forward. I am sorry. I looked at her. For the first time, no comparison, no distance. Just 2 people. I do not hate you. I just moved on. If you have ever had to walk away, not because you wanted to, but because you needed to, comment. 1. My father looked at me. What can I do to fix this? A question I once wished he would ask, but not now. Nothing, I said. He froze. Why? Because this is no longer what I need. I paused, then continued. But if you want to start again, you can call me. One day maybe I will answer, maybe I will not. That depends on why you call. Not cold. Just fair. I turned. Did not run, did not hide. Just walked. This time not away from them, but toward my own life. Outside the sunlight was still bright. The noise still there. Everything was the same. Except one thing. I was no longer the girl waiting for someone to see me. I was someone who had finally seen herself. And for the first time that was enough.